Welcome to another episode, everyone. Derek Chauvin, the pimp who unalived George Floyd. He was stabbed 22 times in prison. Hell, he's been going through hell there in prison. His life has been under constant attack, but he has many supporters. Some of these individuals want him home. They've been donating to him and etc. But that's not what this is about. This is about his experience here in prison and what he's been going through, and it has not been great. Is it deserved? Let's get into it.
The date was June 25th, 2021. The entire world watched as a judge delivered a sentence that would change one man's life forever. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, stood before the court awaiting his fate. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. 22 and a half years in prison.
As sentence for count one, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months.
But here is what nobody told you that day. What awaited Derek Chauvin behind those prison walls would become a living nightmare that makes the death penalty look like mercy. And the recent events of 2025 have proven this in the most brutal way possible. When Derek Chauvin was sentenced in state court for the second-degree murder of George Floyd, he received 22 and a half years. But that was just the beginning. In 2022, federal prosecutors added another 21 years for violating George Floyd's civil rights.
A federal judge sentenced former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin to 21 years in prison for violating George Floyd's civil rights on the day he was killed in May of 2020.
The sentences run concurrently, meaning he is serving them at the same time. If everything goes according to plan, if he gets every bit of good behavior credit possible, Derek Chauvin will not walk free until 2038. That is 13 more years from now as of January 2026. Most people heard those numbers and thought, well, that is justice. He will sit in a cell, read books, eat prison food, and serve his time. Case closed. Right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Here is the reality that nobody talks about. Derek Chauvin is not just serving time. He is surviving every single day in an environment where his name alone makes him the #1 target in the entire federal prison system. And we are not talking about just verbal threats or dirty looks. We are talking about actual life-threatening violence that has already happened. Let me paint you a picture of what Derek Chauvin's daily existence looks like right now in January 2026. He currently resides at the Federal Correctional Institution in Big Spring, Texas. It is classified as a low-security prison, which sounds nice until you understand what that really means. It means he shares space with over 800 other inmates. It means he has to walk through common areas. It means he has to go to the law library, the cafeteria, the recreation yard, and every single one of those moments could be his last. And this is not paranoia. This is a documented fact. Because on November 24th, 2023, the worst-case scenario became reality. Derek Chauvin was in the law library at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tucson, Arizona, where he was previously held. He was probably reading legal documents, working on his appeals, doing what inmates do. And then, without warning, another inmate attacked him from behind with an improvised weapon. 22 times. Let that sink in for a moment. 22 stab wounds. The attacker, John Turskak, a former member of the Mexican mafia gang, had been planning this for over a month. He later admitted to investigators that he specifically chose Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, to make it symbolic. Symbolic.
He's not in a lot of danger in a foreign setting because he's around. Even if you were inside of a cell in a maximum security prison, you would still be in a law library and other places that he just named with other inmates. You still walk the yard with other inmates. You still would not be alone unless you're in protective custody. And even then, you're around other inmates, just inmates who are protective custody. So the fact that he's in a dorm, he says, makes it, that more dangerous for him because he's around all of these inmates. Absolutely not. He's not at maximum security now. He's evidenced by the fact that he's not been attacked. really, other than this incident that he's referencing now, where John Terzak, which I spoke about before, attacked him from behind and stabbed him 22 times, but he didn't kill him. He tried to, I guess, but 22 times is a lot of stab wounds, but he survived it. Not only survived it, I mean, so I don't know what he used, what he had. It wasn't a bone crusher. But he did something more than what other people are doing, apparently, or did to him. But anyway, he's okay where he's at. Apparently, it doesn't seem like he's constantly being attacked or anything for what he did. He was attacked at one time by an individual in 2023, stabbed 22 times. But other than that, I haven't heard much about this individual and his nightmarish experience. I'm sure he's under some sort of threat. Of course, everyone is there in prison. His is more magnified because of the crime that he was convicted of. Nevertheless, apparently he's been able to navigate to this point.
Symbolic of the Black Lives Matter movement, symbolic of the black hand associated with the Mexican mafia. The only reason Derek Chauvin survived that day was because correctional officers responded quickly. Terzak himself admitted that if they had been just a few minutes slower, he would have succeeded in his mission. Think about that. A few minutes. That is the margin between life and death for Derek Chauvin every single day. After the attack, Chauvin was rushed to the hospital where he underwent emergency surgery. He spent over a week recovering from serious injuries. And then he was sent right back to prison. Not to Tucson though, because that facility had proven it could not protect him. FCI Tucson had been plagued by security lapses and staffing shortages. There had even been another incident in November 2022 where an inmate managed to bring a firearm into the facility. So they moved him, first to Oklahoma City as a temporary holding facility. Then in August 2024, he was transferred to where he is now, FCI Big Spring in Texas. And his family has publicly stated that they have serious concerns about whether any prison can actually keep him safe. They want answers about what security measures have changed to prevent another attack. As of January 2026,
No prison can keep anyone safe. We've seen the viral footage of an inmate being attacked in Kern Valley State Prison in California, and the police are sitting right there, standing right there, and watching the man be gruesomely attacked and murdered right there on the yard, right there before their eyes. You're on your own.
those answers have not come. Now let me explain something that most people do not understand about prison life. There is a hierarchy. There are rules. And Derek Chauvin's case broke every unspoken rule about who deserves protection and who deserves punishment in the eyes of inmates. He is a former police officer. Strike 1. He was convicted of killing a black man while wearing a badge. Strike 2. The entire world watched it happen on video. Strike 3. And the incident sparked global protests about racial injustice and police brutality. That is not just 3 strikes. That is a target painted on his back in permanent ink. John Terzak told investigators that he targeted Chauvin specifically because of his notoriety. And Terzak is not alone in that thinking. Every gang member, every inmate with a grudge against police, every person who wants to make a name for themselves in prison sees Derek Chauvin as an opportunity. An opportunity for revenge, for recognition, for respect among other inmates. Chauvin's legal team, particularly his former attorney Eric Nelson, had advocated from the very beginning to keep him out of the general population. They knew this would happen. They predicted it. They begged the courts and the Bureau of Prisons to provide adequate protection. And still, Chauvin ended up in a law library with a gang member who had access to a weapon. So what does this mean for Derek Chauvin's daily life now in January 2026? It likely means isolation, protective custody, segregation. Now you might be thinking, well, that does not sound so bad. He is safe, right? But here is what protective custody actually looks like. 23 hours a day in a cell, 1 hour for recreation, alone, in a cage. Limited human contact. No programs, no jobs, no social interaction. Just you and four walls and the crushing weight of knowing this is your existence for the next 12 years minimum. The psychological effects of long-term solitary confinement are well documented. Depression, anxiety, hallucinations, paranoia.
Well, that's absolutely true. I did 4 years in the shoe and multiple years in the hole and ADSEG, administrative segregation, they call it, ADSEG for short, the hole. And, studies have been done and it is proven to have a long-term effect when you psychologically being isolated in the hole like that in that sort of setting. But, as, disgraced cop Derek Chauvin's prison nightmare. Literally worse than death. That's the title of this. Literally worse than death. The disgraced cop Derek Chauvin's prison nightmare. It's not a nightmare. He's in the hole. It's worse than death because he in the hole. Nah, man. Most people are not gonna feel sorry that he's in the hole. Yes, he's isolated. The hole is different than being on the main line. You don't have access to anything in the hole, or the sort of things that you have access to on the main line. You're destitute of there in the hole, absolutely, but because it's meant for punishment. But he's still alive. He survived, unlike George Floyd, whose life he snuffed right out of in broad daylight where we all could see it. So no pity for me that he's in a hole, living nightmare existence. Worse than death row? No, it's not. And it's not worse than death, and it's not worse than what George Floyd went through on that day. I bet you he'd love to switch places with him.
Some studies compare it to forms of psychological trauma. The United Nations has said that solitary confinement for more than 15 days can constitute cruel and inhuman treatment. Derek Chauvin has likely been in some form of protective isolation for over 2 years now since the attack, and he has at least a dozen more years to go. Here is what most people miss. Protective custody is not protection. It is survival, and survival is not the same as living. But Chauvin is not just sitting in his cell accepting his fate. On November 20th, 2025, he filed another petition for post-conviction.
Okay, he may be in the hole for 2 years. Whip-de-doo. You got people that have been in the shoe program in the hole and Pelican Bay and all that for 20 years, 25 years, 13 years, 15 years, before they just changed it to where they can't keep you back there for that amount of time anymore, because it is cruel and unusual. It's torture. But he's been back there for 2 years. It's only to protect him. It's because he got stabbed 22 times. So now they feel like they have to protect him, keep him isolated from everyone, so that he can go home in a few years or 12 years, whatever it is. Okay.
Relief. This is his latest attempt to overturn his murder conviction and get a new trial. His legal team filed a 71-page memorandum with 3 main arguments. First, they claim the medical testimony about George Floyd's cause of death was flawed. They argue that 4 physicians relied too heavily on video evidence rather than pure medical examination. Second, they say Minneapolis police training was misrepresented at trial and that Chauvin followed his training. Third, they argue the jury instructions were incorrect and the jury was influenced by external pressure. The Minnesota Attorney General's office has until January 4th, 2026 to file a response. Legal experts are skeptical. Chauvin's previous appeals have all failed. The Minnesota Court of Appeals denied his appeal in 2023. The Minnesota Supreme Court declined to hear it. And in November 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear his appeal without comment. But here is the thing. Hope is all Derek Chauvin has left. Hope that maybe, just maybe, some judge will look at the evidence differently. Hope that he can get out before he is 60 years old. Hope that he will not die in prison. And that hope, slim as it is, keeps him filing motions, keeps him fighting, keeps him enduring what comes next. And speaking of hope, there...
His sentence ran concurrent So he got 22 years and then he got 21 years, but his ran concurrent, which means he still has 22 years. You know, that's why he gets out when he does, 12 or so years from now. He has plenty of hope. George Floyd has no more hope.
There is another angle to this story that emerged in 2025. Some conservative voices and commentators have begun calling for a presidential pardon for Derek Chauvin. They argue that his conviction was politically charged, that he did not receive a fair trial because of the intense media coverage and public pressure, that the jury was afraid of riots if they acquitted him. As of January 2026, there is no credible confirmation that President Trump is planning to pardon Chauvin. But even if he did, here is the twist that changes everything. A presidential pardon can only cover federal crimes. Chauvin's federal sentence is 21 years for civil rights violations, but his state sentence is 22 and a half years for murder. A federal pardon would do nothing to change his state conviction. He would remain in prison regardless. All the speculation, all the headlines, all the debate. And at the end of it, Derek Chauvin would still be locked in a cell in Big Spring, Texas, counting down the days until 2038. The irony is almost poetic. The one glimmer of hope being dangled in front of him is legally meaningless, but it keeps this case in the headlines. It keeps reigniting debates about police accountability, racial justice, and whether Chauvin deserves any mercy at all given what he did to George Floyd. Which brings us to the question that haunts this entire story.
So he may still be in prison, Trump pardoning him. The point is he would be clearing him, clearing his conscience, clearing America's conscience, saying that you did nothing wrong. As far as we're concerned, you did nothing wrong. Like they did with the boy Rittenhouse, or whatever. Came to the protest with his AR-15 and all that, took some people out. They all donated to him. They all made excuses for him. They all embraced him. Talking about some sick people. They try to tell you that you're sick, though. They try to convince you that you're the sick one. They keep it at that.
Many people believe that life imprisonment is more humane than execution. They say it gives a person time to reflect, to find redemption, to maintain some quality of life. But those arguments assume a certain baseline of safety and dignity in prison. Derek Chauvin has neither. On death row, inmates are kept in isolation for their protection. They are not mixing with the general population. They are not vulnerable to attacks from other prisoners. Yes, the conditions are harsh. Yes, the psychological toll is immense. But there is a certain finality to it. Derek Chauvin does not have that. He has 12 more years of waking up every day wondering if today is the day someone finishes what John Turskak started. He has 12 more years of looking over his shoulder in the shower, in the law library, in the recreation yard. He has 12 more years of knowing that his name makes...
No, he doesn't. Which one is it? If he's in protective custody, that's why he's going through his hell, living through hell, because he's in this isolation that's just so horrific, worse than death row. Then he's not in a law library with other inmates. He's isolated. They take you to the law library by yourself. When they say no one can be around you, that's what they mean. You get escorted everywhere. They make sure everything is cleared out. You're alone. Not to say that just nothing can still happen, but if he's in protective custody, no, knock it off. So on the one hand, you're saying that, and on the other hand, you're saying he's just in this imminent danger at 24 hours a day. In this minimum security, he made it to minimum security for this bloodthirsty murder that he committed on air. And in this minimum security prison, this individual here narrating the story wants us to believe that Derek Chauvin is just in a world of trouble, that his life is under constant danger, constant threat, and that he can lose his life at any moment. First of all, that's everyone in prison. Everyone has to do everything that he's saying here. Watch your back, watch over your shoulder, stress about this and stress about that. Everyone in prison.
Him a trophy for any inmate looking to earn respect or exact revenge. He has 12 more years of likely living in isolation, cut off from meaningful human contact, slowly losing his grip on reality and sanity. And even if he survives all of that, even if he makes it to 2038 when he is eligible for release, he will be 62 years old. His life as he knew it will be over. His career gone. His marriage ended. His reputation destroyed forever. And through all of this, he has to live with what he did. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. That is how long Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd.
It's just doing Derek Chauvin sympathies or something. Sympathize. What's he talking about? All of this stuff. When he gets out of prison, he'll be 62 if he makes it. If he makes it through all of this, makes it through what? He has 12 years left. Makes it through what? He good. He fine. He old enough. George Floyd is the one that did not make it through anything. He has to survive this and get out and not lose hope. He ain't about to lose hope.
Its neck. That video plays on a loop in the public consciousness. Probably plays on a loop in Chauvin's mind too. Every day, every night, the image of George Floyd saying he could not breathe. The sound of bystanders begging Chauvin to stop. The moment when Floyd went silent and still. That is what makes this different from a typical life sentence. Derek Chauvin is not just any prisoner. He is the prisoner, the one whose actions the whole world watched, the one whose name became synonymous with police brutality and racial injustice, the one whose crime sparked protests in every major city on earth. And just to add perspective, let me tell you what happened to the other 3 officers involved in George Floyd's death. Thomas Lane, who held Floyd's legs, was released from federal prison in August 2024. He served less than 3 years and is now on supervised release. Alexander Quang and Tu Tao are both set to be released in 2025. None of them faced what Chauvin is facing. None of them were attacked. None of them became the symbol of everything people hate about bad policing. That distinction belongs to Derek Chauvin alone, and he is paying for it every single day in ways that are hard for most of us to imagine. So after hearing all of this, after understanding the full picture of what Derek Chauvin's life looks like in January 2026, I have to ask you, is this worse than the death penalty? Living in constant fear, living in isolation for years, living with the psychological weight of knowing you caused a man's death and the world hates you for it, living with virtually no hope of your appeals succeeding, living with the knowledge that even if you survive your sentence, you will still be
Enough. That's it. Derek Chauvin, no, it is not worse than death row. To answer your question, narrator, AI, whoever the hell it was. Is it worse than death row? Living with your decision. You're going to be living with it if you're on death row. Isolated from, he wants to be isolated. He got stabbed 22 times. He PC'd up. He's trying to be isolated to make it home, to save himself. Making it look like this man is just living in absolute turmoil. No, he is not. Because he's in the hole and he's isolated in the hole. Everyone in the hole is isolated. Everyone, man. I did years in the hole. We all go through that shit in the hole. Come on, man. Knock it off. He did what he did. And he's going to be 62 years old when he makes it out, if he makes it out. He's doing just fine. He's protected now. He's going to make it out. Unless something else happens as far as he dies of natural causes or whatever. Eating that bullshit prison food. But other than that, he's going to make it out. So, but George Floyd did not make it out of his situation. That's the thing. So you keep making it seem like this man is just going through all of this treachery when George Floyd is the only one that went through turmoil in a traumatic situation and then lost his life afterwards, sitting there begging for his life, telling this man that he can't breathe. Need I remind you of why he's in there? And he has a date. He's coming home. Excuse me. A lot of people who do this sort of stuff, commit these sort of crimes, they get life in prison. Just ran one with dude got death row for one killing. It'll be all right. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.